Okay, well, I think we can get started. I imagine that we'll have more joining as we begin. But in the interest of time, because we do have 90 minutes today, or a little bit less now, to chat with you, Cory and Sandy, I'd like to use the time as best as possible because I know there's going to be a lot of questions. So I will start out with, I'll just introduce myself briefly for anybody who doesn't know me. I'm Jen Tozer, the Executive Director of A Foundation Building Strength. So happy to have everybody here today for this webinar. A Foundation Building Strength, our mission is to find treatments for 𝗕𝗏 and myopathy, but we also want to bring resources and support to the community now while we work towards finding treatments. And one of those resources is our relatively newly launched Building Strength Together webinar series. And this is a part of that webinar series. Today, as you know, because you registered for this, this is the accessible travel with our very special guest, Cory Lee, and his mom, Sandy. I'll give just a brief background. I think everybody joining probably knows who Cory is, but an accessible traveler and founder of Curb-Free with Cory Lee. He's been to over 50 countries, which is just incredible. As as an accessible traveler and wheelchair user. And I also want to just mention that Lynn, Bayer, and Greta are also on today who can talk about traveling with medical equipment, additional medical equipment. So they are going to be a wonderful additional resource today. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Cory and Sandy to introduce themselves, and we can get started with our Q&A today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk all about traveling with you guys for the next hour and a half. So it's going to be a good time, I think. There's nothing more I love talking about than travel. But as Jen said, I run Curb-Free with Cory Lee, which I launched back in 2013. So it's been almost 12 years now since I launched the blog. And over the past 12 years, we have traveled to all 7 continents, over 50 countries, and it's really been a whirlwind of a journey.
And I'm Sandy. I'm Cory's mom. As she said, I appreciate you all joining and having us today. We've been looking forward to this for a few weeks now. And I travel everywhere with Cory. I'm not only his caregiver, but I'm now have become his photographer. So I do his videos and photos, but then at night he puts it all together, makes all the reels, does all the writing. I'm just kind of behind the scenes trying to catch those shots as we see them. So he takes it all and puts it all together. It's amazing. I'm so proud of him, and I appreciate you having us all here today.
Well, thank you for being here. And I'll just add for everybody attending today, we will start with some questions that we think would be helpful to get the conversation going. But if there are questions that you do have, please put them in the chat, or you can come off mute and share them, and we'd love to address any questions. So just keep that in mind, but we'll start with a few just to get warmed up and to get the conversation going.
All right. So we had a meeting with Cory and Sandy on Tuesday night, which was very exciting to get to know them a little bit already and to kind of talk about how to frame some of our conversation today. So we thought it would be most helpful to talk about travel by plane, travel by car, and also travel by cruise. And so those are kind of the 3 things that we felt like we could focus on. But certainly there are many aspects to all of those things. So would love to hear from anyone on your questions. So I guess I'll just open it up. Maybe we can start with the plane first, Cory and Sandy, and just maybe what are some of the most important things that you consider when traveling by plane, like as you're prepping and doing it and getting ready, as I think some of our folks on this call have done that before, others may not have or don't do it as often. So tell us all your secrets.
All right. I mean, we could probably spend the whole hour and a half talking about air travel, because it's, the hardest part of traveling for us by far. Like it's the one part of traveling that I dread the most and like have so much anxiety around it, even still, even though we've taken hundreds of flights over the past decade. But it's still like a constant challenge. But I mean, we have learned to make it easier in some ways. So we do have pre-check, which allows me to go through TSA. And if you are a wheelchair user with pre-check, you can usually avoid the pat down, and instead they'll just like swab the chair, swab my hands, and then let me through very, very quickly. So it's saved us a lot of time and a lot of pat downs, which are very in-depth sometimes, a little too in-depth at times. So that TSA pre-check has definitely been helpful for us. And then before we actually get on the plane, we always take parts of my wheelchair off and put them into a carry-on bag that we can carry onto the plane. So I feel like the less parts that are on the wheelchair, the less likely it is to actually be damaged by the airline while it's in the cargo hold. So we take off like the knee pads, the headrest, any parts of your chair that are easily removable. I would definitely suggest taking them off and putting them into a carry-on bag.
Some joysticks may come off easy as well. His is a little difficult to unplug because it's kind of up behind his backrest and the plug is not easily reachable. So I'll use bubble wrap to wrap around his joystick and then wrap a plastic bag around it. I just use a Walmart bag and some masking tape because I can rip that masking tape on and off pretty quickly once we get to the destination. But I put the plastic bag around that bubble wrap just to protect it again in case it's raining when they're trying to unload the chair at the new destination or whatever might happen. But if the joystick comes off, sliding it into a carry-on bag, a tote bag, you can put it on the plane. And the stewardesses are always really nice to say, you know, if it's medical equipment, we can put it in our closet as long as there's space, you know, in there for that. So I feel like protecting that joystick is the main thing. You don't want to get there and it be broke. And then I always flip up the footrests as well, just so they don't get broken off during flight. I flip those up and always take his seat cushion with us for him to sit on the plane.
And we do always also put a sign on my wheelchair, and like it's laminated, and on that sign it says like my phone number on it. It tells the weight of the wheelchair, the width, the height, all of those important details that may be helpful to the ground crew that's loading my chair. And it tells them how to put my wheelchair in manual mode. So step-by-step instructions, just to make it super easy for that ground crew. Like if they have a question, they can look at that sign, know how to control the wheelchair, and then my phone number is on there if they need to call me while they're loading the chair and if they have any questions. So,
and I always add a little smiley face and a thank you just to give a little extra oomph of niceness, just in case. It doesn't hurt.
And you can also, we've been talking forever already, but there's like so much we can say about air travel. But when you are at the gate, before you actually board the plane, you can request to speak with the ground crew that's going to be loading your chair. And I feel like that's super helpful because it puts a face to the chair. Like they're able to meet me at that point. They know, like I can tell them how important my wheelchair is to me. And then when they're loading my chair, instead of just thinking like, oh, well, it's just another piece of equipment, they're thinking like, oh, this is Cory's chair. Like I just met Cory. You know, like it helps them like realize how important it is and have that connection, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about when you are booking flights? Do you do that on your own? Do you use a service? Like what are some of the things that you're kind of keeping in mind as far as layovers, those sorts of challenging things?
Yeah, so I always book the flights on my own, and we're really loyal to Delta because we live near Atlanta, which is Delta's like home base. So they do have a ton of nonstop options out of Atlanta, luckily. And so, I mean, if it's at all possible, we do a nonstop to avoid that layover, because with a layover, it just adds like another level of challenge where there's another possibility for the wheelchair to be damaged when it's being loaded into another plane. So even if a flight is a little more expensive to have like a nonstop option, I mean, I would rather pay a little more to have that nonstop than to have to worry about it again and deal with a layover. I think it's definitely worth the extra cost if it's an option for you.
And we found in our own travels that we can book the cheapest seats and then call disability services and they'll always move us up.
Yeah.
Do you find the same thing? So don't feel like you have to book Delta Comfort or whatever the comfort is on the line that you're flying, because they'll give you those seats, your whole party for free.
Yeah.
That's what we found in our experiences. You found the same?
Yeah, so legally, if you book a seat like in economy, you can call the airline and request to be moved to the bulkhead seating. And the bulkhead is that very front row of economy. So it usually comes with more leg space and it's easier to get into that seat. But with the bulkhead seating, the bad thing about it is that a lot of times the armrest on that bulkhead seat will not lift up. And so if you do need that armrest to lift up to be able to transfer into the seat more comfortably, the bulkhead may not be the best option for you. So I usually will just book like Comfort Plus because it has a little more space than regular economy. And then if the armrest will move up on bulkhead, move up there. If it won't, don't. But I always just call the airline and get them to tell me if that armrest will lift up or not.
It just makes for an easier transfer if it'll move up.
Yeah,
So,
much easier.
you know, we could still lift him up higher and over it, but
Yeah.
it's easier not to worry about, are we gonna not get him high enough?
Yeah, during that like transfer process, I've been dropped on that armrest a couple times when it
Not
wouldn't
me.
lift up. Yeah, not by her, but by the airline crew, and it does not feel good. So
one thing to note for those that of our community that use ventilators or have to have like suction machines or cough machines quickly accessible, bulkhead's not a good option to book because you can't slide the equipment under the row in front of you. There's nowhere to put the equipment. So if you book economy and then call, just tell them that you can't sit in bulkhead because you have equipment that you have to slide under the seats, and then they'll usually put you in like the next available row. So just a tip for that medical equipment. But you always get to board first, so you usually can get everything that you need. You're like filling in all of the bin space over top first before anybody else gets it. And the other thing that I did is I just dropped we have a lot of links that we'll share through the conversation today, but I just dropped a link in the chat that goes over the different sorts of airplanes and what the cargo door size is. Airlines have gotten more and more strict on your chair meeting the height requirements. So there's, they don't tip them because they don't want to break them. You know, if you're sitting up in comfort, sometimes you can see them loading your chair and you just want to like close your eyes and not look because it's very stressful. But they say now they're not legally allowed to tip chairs, so they want to make sure it will meet the height requirement. So something to look at when you're booking flights. That resource can be very helpful. Cory, I think you're open to talking about this, but the idea of toileting on planes, and we've not traveled internationally yet. We're going to, but we've heard that there are accessible restrooms on longer flights, and so want to hear any thoughts, or and that they have an aisle chair that you can use, but want to hear any thoughts you have about whether you've actually seen an true accessible restroom, and what you sort of do to prep for that. I've seen a lot of your posts on this online, so, and we all know the drill.
Yeah, so we have seen their version of an accessible restroom, but I would say that it's not the most accessible option. Like for me, I would have to physically transfer to that onboard wheelchair and then go into the restroom with a companion to help me out. And so that entire process, like on a flight, is just not an option for me. So I usually, I don't recommend this. It's not the safest option, but I always start dehydrating myself and not eating a couple days before the flight if it's in like a long international flight. And then just like try to not use the restroom at all throughout the flight. And we traveled like a month ago. We did a 16-hour nonstop to South Korea. We've done a 17-hour nonstop to South Africa. Like we've taken super, super long flights, like some of the longest flights in the world. And throughout those flights, I just didn't use the bathroom at all. But I mean, it's just like I've learned what my body can and cannot handle. So I'm used to it. But if you are able to get into that aisle chair and go to the restroom, like as long as it is a double aisle aircraft, which all like long international flights usually are, then there is a designated quote unquote accessible restroom, which is a little more spacious than the standard lavatory. So hopefully you could get in there with a companion, but it's definitely going to be tight, but you hopefully can make it work.
And I'll say this, like in the accessible restrooms, like even if it's accessible, if you're able to transfer yourself and the aisle chair can pull up close enough and you can move your own body over and transfer onto the toilet, there may be enough space for you.
Yeah.
But with him, he's not able to transfer at all. So for me to be able to pick him up and I'm kind of cradling him, his legs sticking out, there's just not enough space for me to pick him up and then pivot and then sit him on the toilet.
Yeah.
It's just difficult for our situation, but for others, it may work if you can transfer yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I mean, a ton of like people that use manual chairs and that can transfer themselves and like they have no problem with it. They can easily do it. But just for us, it's like really literally impossible. So
It's a tight space.
Yeah, no, I think the majority of our community here would be folks, a lot of them anyway, folks that need help transferring. And you know, I know Cindy wrote in there, do you know if the aisle chair fits in the restroom? Like, can you actually fit it in and close it?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it is like a designated accessible restroom and a double aisle aircraft, then the aisle chair will definitely fit in there. But the aisle chair and a companion and transferring onto the toilet, like that may not work.
That's what's difficult.
But it is, I think by 2030, there's a new law that came out last year from Secretary Buttigieg. And it says that by 2030, every double aisle aircraft has to have an accessible lavatory. So, I mean, within 5 years, we will see that. But in the meantime, you might just want to call the airline when you're booking the flight and make sure that it does have an accessible lavatory.
Yeah.
And the only other options, I mean, I hate to say this, but it's just honesty, and this is what will work. But just holding a blanket over us, we've done this, I think, once on.
I did it for the first time in October on our flight to Tokyo, actually. And I was like so nervous about it, but it worked.
Yeah, we just held a blanket. I held a blanket. Well, our friend, we had a third traveler with us, luckily. But she held a blanket up over Cory and I just to block other people from seeing. I held a urinal jug. He just had to urinate. So I just held the jug for him. He used it right there in the plane seat. I mean, it sounds nasty and nobody even noticed though. It was the middle of the night. It was dark and it worked. So, I mean, if you got to go, you got to go. I mean, 16 hours. That was
it was a long one. And there is also just like one last note and then we can go to the next question. But there is a device called the 𝗕𝗲V𝗰𝗵, and there's also for girls a 𝗕𝗲V𝗰𝗲𝗀. And with this device, it's like a portable urinal, but when you like pee into it, it turns your pee into like this gel substance. And so you can like, you don't have to then go empty the jug like the urinal. It would just like, you just throw it in the garbage. Like it turns it into a gel substance in a little bag and you throw it in the garbage. So the 𝗕𝗲V𝗰𝗲 and 𝗕𝗲V𝗃 might be an option for you. And you could just like use that in the plane seat if you covered yourself with a blanket. But those are like, I mean,
I know for guys, there's also condom catheters that we tried, I think, one time when you were
Yeah,
younger.
did
but
not
we're
go
just-
well.
We were so uncomfortable with it. We was afraid it would come loose. We was afraid the leg bag would get caught on something and spill. We were just nervous, but it may work for other people, but
Yeah.
we've just not tried it again.
I'm gonna look up some of those links and put them into the chat, just as options. So thank you for that. Because I was just thinking, like, you know, Greta's, what do you call the things that Greta uses in the hospital? Why can't I find the word? Like the
Bedpan?
Yeah, like a bedpan for
Yeah.
girls. Like, if that would
Right.
be an option.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
and we've never done that. But then I'm thinking of like walking through the plane, and all of a sudden there's turbulence, and you have the
Right.
bedpan full of urine. Like, that's not any sort of situation I want to be in. So
Right.
I'm gonna find these, and but thank you for that recommendation. I'm
Yeah.
gonna turn it over to Gabby and Ali.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Cory. We
Hey.
we love you, first of all. I'll
Oh,
tell
thank
you a story
you.
later. We got great ideas from your website for some of our travels.
Awesome.
But I wanted to add to this discussion about washrooms on planes, especially for girls who sadly cannot use the jug at the seat due to anatomical differences. It's obviously everyone avoids using the bathroom, all our wonderful kids, because it's so impossible on planes. But I will tell you what we did when our longest flight has been to Israel, which was 12 hours. And that is too long, honestly. It was difficult. But this is what we did. This is if you have a girl who cannot use anything in the seat, and a smaller person who can be lifted by, because again, most of our kids can't transfer, it was ridiculous, but my husband lifted her walking along the aisle to the bathroom. The bathroom, I don't know if it was an accessible bathroom or not. Too small, it wasn't. So too small to fit even 2 people in the bathroom to assist her. So we had to leave the door open so that she could go to the washroom. So what we did is we took a blanket, similar concept, a blanket. I held the blanket on both sides so that nobody would come, so that you create an enclosed space, so then she could be assisted on the toilet. So if you have a smaller person that you're able to lift across through the plane into the washroom, and the bathroom is not big enough, using sort of an extra person and holding a blanket, you can create the bigger washroom. It's not ideal, but as I think Michelle said, you do what you got to do. So that you got to go to the bathroom. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you shared that. It's good to meet you and hear your story. But yeah, I mean, before we did that for the first time on the flight to Tokyo back in October, I was like so nervous about it. And I was like, what are people gonna think? Are they gonna like see me using the restroom here? Are they gonna like ground the flight because there's like an indecent person here using the restroom, you know? But it really went very smoothly. Like we just waited till they turned the lights out. It was an overnight flight, so just waited till they like turned the lights out, and like everybody on the plane was asleep. I never sleep on planes, so I was not asleep, unfortunately. But it worked phenomenally well. And yeah, you do what you got to do.
It's very, very true. And I know even for us, which makes things, and I'm assuming a number of people on the call, which makes things a little bit more difficult, is especially our kids on vents and that don't eat by mouth and things like that. Like, we have to keep them hydrated. Otherwise they plug easy. And so anytime Greta travels, she always tends to get more dehydrated in general. So we're like trying to pump more fluids into her, which doesn't help with the toileting situation. So whether we're traveling by car or plane or whatever, it tends to just wear on her a little bit more, although she does travel pretty well. So it's like, you want to dehydrate, but then you're going to be dealing with other emergency possible things on flights. So it's like, what do you do? No, these are all really great suggestions and questions. Thank you so much. So let's talk a little bit about, well, we'll jump from plane and we can go back to plane, you know, because I think there's just going to be a lot of questions that continue, but I know you post a lot about just even thinking about where you stay, and both hotel accommodations and like travel, like rental vehicles, things like that, rental services, you know, just getting around, figuring out Oh yeah, and electrical differences too would be really helpful. Like obviously plugging your chair in other countries and things like that. And I know Gabby, the 𝗟𝗲𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 have had some experience with that as well with ventilators and different charging outlets. But yeah, so Cory, take it away with hotels and Sandy, hotels, travel, those sorts of things once you're at your different locations.
Yeah, so whenever we're kind of booking hotels and starting to look into hotels within a destination, I will get online and like see what the options may be, but then I always call the hotel to really inquire about accessibility and ask any questions, because on like Hilton.com, they don't even have photos of that accessible room that you're going to be getting. They're usually just like standard stock image photos. So you do want to call and ask, like, what's the bed height? Get them to go measure it if that's important for you. Or is there a roll-in shower with like smooth entry? Or even request for them to email you or text you photos of that accessible room that you're going to be getting. I've done that numerous times, and they're always willing to send photos and do that for us. So that's definitely a good option, just to build your confidence to know that that room really will work for your needs. But yeah, I mean, I never trust what it says online. Really, I just call to get my questions answered. And then in terms of vacation rentals, there are, I mean, and hotels also, there are some websites that do focus on truly accessible vacation rentals and hotels. So Becoming Rentable is a really good one. It's basically like Airbnb, but only for accessible vacation rental accommodations. So houses, we used Becoming Rentable a few weeks ago and had a vacation rental house in Orlando, Florida. And it was like one of the most accessible places we've ever stayed. Truly incredible. And they had all of that information on Becoming Rentable's website. So I love that website. Yeah, that's the link right there in the chat. And then anything you want to add about hotels?
I don't know. I just know, like, when he was saying to call the hotel directly and ask, those pictures online, even if it says that it is the ADA accessible king suite or king oceanfront or whatever it might say, if it says ADA, even the photo, sometimes the bed height might look low and you get there and it's high, or it might look high and you get there and the bed's low. Yep. I never trust those photos. Never. I always call and say, how tall is that bed? Because the bed height to us is so important, because I'm lifting Cory. And so, I mean, I don't want to be leaned all the way down to the ground. 19 inches tall is too low for us. 26 or 28 inches is perfect. Even for a lift, I mean, sometimes you can't tell in a picture because of the bed skirt is hiding to see if it's open underneath for a Hoyer lift. So by calling them directly, you could answer those questions. And if they don't know or act like they don't want to go check, just ask for a manager and just insist. I mean, don't book it unless you know, because we've went too many times and trusted and shouldn't have.
Have you found that when you've traveled, you've been able to oh yeah, that was my question. Do you bring a Hoyer, or do they provide them, or?
So when we actually stayed at that vacation rental in Florida a few weeks ago, they did provide a Hoyer lift. So there was a Hoyer lift in that vacation rental, but that's like one of the only times ever
and we
that one has been provided.
One other time we had a rental in Orange Beach that provided a Hoyer lift too, but each time we provided our own sling.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but we usually don't travel with a Hoyer. She just picks me up and throws me around, like, but
you make it sound so easy.
Right. but yeah, we usually don't take one, but it does depend on who I'm traveling with.
And you, do you want to talk about and I have links to like the slings, like if you have two people, you can both help with the slings, right? And the shower chair and the case and stuff that you travel with, because I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, to get actually on the plane, like transfer from my wheelchair to the aisle chair and then to the plane seat, I use a transfer sling. It's called the 𝗟𝗲𝗿𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 Sling Lite. And it basically just like I sit on it. It's super comfortable, soft. And then it has handles on it where somebody can get behind me and then somebody in front of me and grab those handles and just easily lift me. So it makes it so much easier to be able to transfer with that sling. And it's really like been a total game changer for us over the years.
Before that we started using the sling, he was just getting manhandled, you know, from the flight crew or from me or whoever was with us trying to pick him up and move him or pick him up by his pants. We were just trying to get that transfer done, but using the sling was truly life-changing for us.
Yeah.
Much safer.
And then I know you also mentioned the shower chair.
Yeah, the shower chair and the case, like that was fascinating to me that you all do that.
Yeah. I always, on every trip, take my own shower chair just because the ones that are provided by the hotels usually aren't that great and aren't like fitted to me, and I don't feel safe in them. So
And they usually
we
don't have wheels.
Yeah, they usually, well, they never have wheels.
Yeah.
So we always take our own shower chair. The link was just posted in the chat, but it like disassembles fairly easily, but we carry it in like a big Stanley toolbox, which is pretty big. Like it is a lot to travel with.
It's a 50-gallon plastic Stanley tote. I just found it on Home Depot's website. So it's got wheels and a handle, so I can pull it just like luggage. And I even put my, I've got some bed risers in there. I just use yoga blocks for bed risers. So I've got those in there because they're lightweight. I've got some tools to work on the wheelchair in that case, in case something did happen, zip ties, Allen wrenches, some duct tape is in there, I think. And then of course the shower chair is disassembled in there, and out of all 52 countries, they've never had a problem with that case. And it's been everywhere we've been.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. I'm knocking. But yeah, it works.
No, that's fantastic. I'm just thinking about getting all of this stuff in like the van to get to the airport, right? Like the challenge of that. I don't know where we would put something more.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to like travel with, but it's also did want to mention, like, to go back to flying, medical equipment does fly for free. So we have never been charged for that shower chair, and it weighs like 80 pounds. They have never charged us for it as long as your flight is leaving from or arriving into the US. So as long as a US destination is your starting or ending point, then you are protected by the Air Carrier Access Act, which is a set of regulations that protect people with disabilities when they're flying. So as long as that's the case, then you're good to go with your medical equipment.
But we have found that a lot of times the staff at the airport are not aware that it's free. But we have to remind them and be adamant about, yes, this is the law. It's free. It's medical equipment. You can look inside, see it's a shower wheelchair.
Yeah.
And they usually have to, well, not usually, but sometimes they have to call another worker over to verify it. And then we've never had to pay for it. So.
Two questions. We'll go, I'll start with Alice first, because she's still on like the wheelchair on the plane and stuff. Do you take your full-size wheelchair on the plane, or do you take a lighter portable wheelchair?
So I always take my standard power wheelchair. It weighs 400 pounds, so it's pretty heavy, but I have taken it all over the world. And I really take it because when I get to the destination, like I want to be able to enjoy it as much as possible and be as comfortable as possible. And so this wheelchair is like really comfortable for me. It's fitted to my body. So like for me, it makes sense to risk it and to just take it. But I do know a lot of people have smaller travel chairs that they use. So if that is an option for you and you can be comfortable in it and still be like as independent as possible in a travel chair, that may be an option. But for me, it really just wouldn't be as good. So I always take my standard everyday chair.
No, and I think that's something that's so important to think about, Cory. I mean, our family just recently, we got Greta after we had her chair breakdown in Vegas. I was just kind of done, and we had to rent a scooter while we were there. I mean, it's a very big scooter rental place in general. So they had one to us in like a half hour. It was pretty great. And I was like, oh, she can actually manage this. Like and at that point I was like, we really need to look into getting a foldable power chair. And we found one that has a headrest. And so we now have, I mean, it's not, she'll tell Greta, you'll tell them, right? It's not quite as comfortable, but she can tolerate it. And then it also makes it, when we get to the other place, we don't have to rent an accessible van. And, you know, she can tolerate sitting in a car. We just get an SUV. So it has a big space to put out chair and all the medical equipment in the back. And Chris, her chair is called the 𝗕𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗃. We actually tried it out for the first time at the expo, the Abilities Expo. And my wife, Kate, will tell you, I called her and I was like, can I just buy this? They're giving a really good deal. She's like, Lynn, no, you're not just coming home with that. I was like, I really think she could do it. And this was a few years ago. She's like, no. But then we ended up going to a place and trying out a number of them. And Greta ended up with that chair that we originally tried out at the Abilities Expo.
Nice.
So I think it's kind of funny. But you can get, they'll do headrests on it and do a bunch of like seat belts, chest straps, things like that to make it as safe as possible and, you know, able to tie it down. But I will put that in there in a minute.
Good.
But now I don't even have to look at cargo door spaces. It's like a whole different game changer, which is
I mean, I would love to be able to like do
Yeah.
that. Like it would really simplify the process so much. But yeah, I mean, that would be a dream. If it can work for you, definitely go for that. If you do need to like take your own wheelchair, you're worried about it getting damaged, like research wheelchair repair companies within the destination before you even fly there, just so if something does go wrong, like you know where you can go to get a quick repair, hopefully. But yeah, just research that before the trip, and then you'll know where the repair shop is if you need it.
Absolutely. And, you know, we found that most times they're pretty good, but sometimes if the chair is just completely damaged and it's going to take months to fix, you know, it's like very stressful. But yeah, if anyone has any questions about the 𝗕𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗃, and I know like 𝗟𝗲𝗃𝗁𝗃's son has, I think, a foldable chair, a few of us now, I'm happy to chat with you offline about like the model we got and how we set it up and everything. So we put the vent on there and it holds a ton of weight, which is really good. It doesn't tip. It has tippers in the back too, so it can't tip. So it's very good. And it wasn't super expensive. I think we paid like $2,000 for it. It wasn't like terribly expensive, not compared to the $35,000 that our regular power chairs cost. Not that $2,000 isn't a lot, but in comparison, it's pennies compared to the Permobiles and all the others. What was I going to say? Oh, so going back to the Cindy Kinnaid had written, have you had any luck with Airbnbs with filters for finding accessible places, or do you just use them becoming rentable typically?
I have looked at Airbnb and they do have like accessibility filters now, but I have never actually booked one on Airbnb. So I've really only booked on that becoming rentable site. So yeah, I've never actually booked on Airbnb.
Has anyone on the call booked on Airbnb for an accessible property? I know some of us on here, we've talked about like going down to the Outer Banks and things like that and getting accessible, big, huge properties, but I don't know if anybody's actually ever done it. It'd be kind of fun.
We went to Outer Banks. I'm logged in as Chris, but it's Tracy.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Fine, thanks. We did Outer Banks and we did find an accessible, it was called accessible. It had a ramp. So that helped, but there was a big, huge lip. So we still had to get over the big lip and carry him over that way. So the wheelchair didn't get into the house very easily. I don't think there was really accessible bathrooms or toilets or anything. Mason's small enough that we can just kind of still move him. But yeah, I think accessible is probably loose in their definition of what's truly accessible for Airbnb, in our experience at least.
I think too, a lot of times in the Outer Banks, the houses are there's so many levels that the elevators are often there more as like, so you don't have to carry the suitcases all the way up. Like they're identified as accessible, but not probably in a lot of the ways that we think about accessibility, where more able-bodied people are like, oh, look, we don't have to carry all of our bags upstairs. So
Yeah,
that's
that one
great.
didn't even have an elevator, so it was
Oh, gosh.
the very lowest definition of accessible. So
Yeah, we've found some of the best properties that we've stayed at just like on Google. So not even on Airbnb or Becoming Rentable or any of those, but just by Googling like wheelchair cabin, Great Smoky Mountains, or wheelchair condo, like Florida. And then like the people that really prioritize accessibility, they've spent time working on like SEO and making sure that their property is at the top of the Google search. So, and then they usually have websites with all of the details that are like fully devoted to showcasing that one property. So we found really great cabins in Shenandoah National Park and the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee and Georgia and Florida, like all over the place, just by Googling and not even using like Airbnb or Becoming Rentable. I think it just really, it depends on how you phrase it in Google, but I usually just put like wheelchair condo, Panama City Beach, or wheelchair cabin, whatever the national park is.
I usually put roll-in shower because that's
Yeah.
so important to us. It can't have a step, it can't have a tub. So I just put roll-in shower, beachfront condo, and then search the destination. It's sometimes I'll get lucky on that, especially with if it's a wheelchair, if it's owned by a person who uses a wheelchair, we're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be good.
For sure.
About those.
Yeah.
There's a couple of other notes in here, just comments about people that have, Stephanie Zemo with you all using an Airbnb one time at Prince Edward Island, but you haven't done it since then. And Sarah Foy, Verbo, but the elevator broke during our stay. So yeah, that's always, it's always terrible.
Yeah.
Not good, not good. Can you talk a little bit, Cory, about, Gabby, what do you do for the beaches?
So if it's a beach that we can actually drive to, I do have an all-terrain wheelchair. It's called the Magic Mobility Extreme X8, and it's sold by Sunrise Medical. And so with that chair, it can roll in the sand and it can go like in any kind of all-terrain environment. It's amazing. But that we only take it to destinations that we can actually drive to. So we've never flown with it because it's such a big chair. Yeah, thanks for putting the link in there, Greta. But we otherwise just research in advance to see if the destination does offer beach wheelchairs. And so we have rented like powered beach wheelchairs and some destinations where you have to pay like a daily fee to be able to rent that power beach wheelchair. But a lot of destinations now, they do have those available on kind of a first come, first serve basis. So you could always reach out to like the destination's Convention and Visitors Bureau and ask them about beach wheelchairs or beach accessibility. And they should know what companies have that, but reaching out to the local Convention and Visitors Bureau could definitely be a huge help.
Cory, do you tend to use the beach wheelchairs more for just getting around the sand or like to go in the water? Like, are you a big like go in the actual ocean sort of guy, or?
I mean, I have a few times. I've gone into the ocean in Brazil like last year, I think, and that was the first time in a long time. In Aruba I did, and then in Greece I did last summer. But I usually just like stay on the sand with it and just like soak up the sun. So I'm not like a huge fan of getting in the water, but I have done it a few times. And there are some destinations that have those amphibious beach wheelchairs that can roll in the sand or go in the water. So if that's something you really want, those are definitely an option in a lot of destinations. I know that Panama City Beach, Florida has them. I don't think Gulf Shores does, but where else has them? Like some beaches in California have them.
I think Jekyll Island and down in
Yeah.
the beaches near in South Georgia.
Yeah.
They do.
So a lot of destinations now are getting like a variety of different kinds of beach wheelchairs where you can like kind of have your option if you want a powered one or if you want an amphibious one or, just to suit your needs. But yeah, just check in advance and contact the local like Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they should be able to tell you.
That's great, thank you. And if anyone has, like, I was just trying to search up the amphibious wheelchairs. If anyone has links for things that they've seen or used, Kate, can you look up whatever that wheelchair is, that beach wheelchair that you're always talking about wanting to get for our lake house? That would be great.
I did publish an article like a few months ago, actually, on my website about beach wheelchairs. So
Oh,
yeah, if you go to my website and just search like beach wheelchair, it should come up. But yeah.
perfect. If someone, whoever, Jen or Kate or Greta, if you don't mind, try to find that, that would be great. Because I know, like, even our daughter Greta, she always wants to go to these water places and go into the water and be on the beach, and it's just everything's more difficult, right? I'm like, this is it. Like, it's just difficult, but that's what she always wants to do. So trying to make things work. It's like, can we just go to a pool? Can we just go to a pool?
I've really found the best like accessibility if you're wanting to get into the water in other countries, like outside of the US. So in the US, the beaches tend to have those like big, bulky beach wheelchairs where you can't even go in the water, like they only roll in the sand. But internationally, they have those amphibious beach wheelchairs a lot more. So in Greece, even like Greece is probably the most accessible beach option in the world. But they have a sea track system, which is a chair that you can like transfer into, and then it's on a track and it carries you out into the water. And so you can then go swimming around, and it's the most incredible system in the world. It's amazing. So if you are a big fan of getting in the water, Greece would be the spot to go.
That's good to know. Cindy put in, we would be really interested in learning about specific places in the US where you have stayed that you would consider quote unquote amazing or very accessible, specifically warmer places.
Okay, I immediately, the first place I thought of, probably the first one you thought of too, because we both loved it. And we're like dying to go back always. But Disney's Aulani Resort in Hawaii is amazing. They have amphibious beach wheelchairs that you can use. They have pool lifts at every pool.
And there's
at
like
Aulani.
10 pools.
Yeah, even the lazy river has a lift. The snorkeling area with all the fish has a lift. And it's just like a super, super, super accessible resort.
And a paved pathway along the beach.
Yes.
So if you wanted to stay in your chair, you're so close to the water and on that paved walkway. It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
too.
Aulani, oh my God. Every day I'm tempted to book another trip. But it's amazing. And then otherwise, like in terms of like warm destinations, where else have we really loved? Like a beach place. I mean, I'm trying to think of a really good one. Like I love Panama City Beach, Florida. And they do have the amphibious beach wheelchairs at St. Andrews State Park in Panama City Beach, Florida. But then if you want to rent a power beach wheelchair, those are available from a private company there called Beach Powered Mobility. And you can rent them. So there are a variety of beach chair options in Panama City Beach.
And if you rent the power chair, they'll deliver it to your hotel and pick it back up. So you're not having to worry about going to get it. So that's a great thing too. And there's also lots of Moby mats.
Yes.
That's at St. Andrews Park in Panama City Beach as well.
And there is a really, really great accessible condo in Panama City Beach that is owned by a wheelchair user. So it's, I think, a 2-bed, 2-bath condo, and it's beachfront. They have a ramp down to the sand, so it's easy to get on the beach from there. And it's like one of our favorite places.
I think the name of it is Seahorse.
I think so.
What is the name of the tower?
Seahorse. If you Google, I always find it because I never know the name of it. by Googling wheelchair condo, Panama City Beach.
Oh, it's at Treasure Island.
Treasure Island. that's
Treasure
it.
Island is the name of the condo building, but the condo itself is 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗄.
Yeah. It's
It's
owned
great.
by Linda Kidd, I think
Yeah,
is her name.
the
Yeah,
private
but
owner.
it's amazing. Really, really great condo to stay at.
I feel like that was one. Did you have that on your site recently or someone did? I feel like I saw that
Maybe.
somewhere.
Yeah, I probably did.
Maybe I saw it from that woman too. Oh, did someone find it? Greta, you found it? Is that it?
I
Maybe.
think so. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe. I don't know.
Seahorse condo. Yeah.
There's
No,
another great
exactly.
one in Orange Beach too.
Yeah, there's a really good one in Orange Beach, also Alabama, but in Orange.
Oh, I think that was the one I saw. Orange Beach, Alabama.
Yeah, in Orange Beach though, they do have the powered beach chairs that you can rent, and then they have the manual beach wheelchairs on a first come first served basis, but they can't go into the water. So if you want that amphibious beach chair and to be able to get into the water, Orange Beach does not have those, I don't think.
No, lots of good options here. Very exciting. Cory, can you talk to, and Sarah, I also, not that it's warm, but I also agree Washington, D.C. is one of our favorite places to go.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I love
super accessible, and except when you stay in a hotel and all the elevators go down and then you have to have the fire department rescue you in your chair. But besides that, it's a really accessible place. That was our last experience there. Very exciting.
Well, speaking of that, I was in DC once. I went to college in DC and was on a bus, a city bus, and the lift caught on fire. And so the fire department had to come in and literally carry me off the bus and rescue me. And so I'm like traumatized for DC. But I love DC. It's like the most accessible city in the US, I think. But I've also had interesting experiences there.
It was nuts.
Oh my God,
And
that's
we got a picture somewhere of Cory and all the firemen standing
Oh, yeah,
outside
we
this
do.
bus. It's
Yeah.
great.
oh my gosh, that's terrible. Cory, can you talk a little bit about your thoughts? I mean, both maybe domestically, but certainly internationally with kind of getting around the spaces. Like, I think that's a fear everyone has, like, how accessible is it truly? Do you rely on public transportation? Are you using services? Like, what are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I mean, there are some international destinations that have really great accessible public transportation. So places like Helsinki, Finland, we easily get around. Every mode of transportation is accessible. Sydney, Australia, Melbourne, Australia. Where else have we used like public? Oh, Barcelona, incredible. So a lot of like places in Europe are great, and then Australia, but for other destinations like Asia, like places in Asia, Africa, places where maybe the public transportation isn't so great, we do always use tour companies that specialize in accessibility. And so they will provide the accessible like transportation, the van, a tour guide, like they'll often book accessible hotels for us. And so they are more expensive than just depending on public transportation, but they really do take care of like all of the details that you need. And they're often like sometimes even owned by wheelchair users, or so they really know accessibility in and out. So like in Iceland, we used a company called Iceland Unlimited, and it's owned by a wheelchair user. And so they provide the van that's fully accessible. They know hotels, like all the details when you're in Iceland. We've used companies in South Africa, India, Thailand recently, South Korea, all over the world. So I usually just find them by Googling like wheelchair tour and then the destination that we're traveling to, and just find them that way. And it usually comes up like pretty easily in Google.
It
That's
saves
good.
a lot of time too when you're at the destination
yeah.
because they know what's accessible, they know where the accessible restrooms are, the accessible pathways, the entrances to get into the restaurants or the stores, where to go, where not to go, the safe areas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an extra added comfort, I think. I love traveling more with a tour company than just on our own, trying to venture out on a new city,
yeah.
relying on public transportation. It's fine too, and it's cheaper, but to save on the nerves, I think it's better with a
Yeah.
tour company just to relax, let them drive, let them take care of it if you're able to do
Oh, yeah.
that.
Yeah, when we were in Thailand like last month, our tour guide there, the best tour guide we've ever had by far. But he even stood, we were on a really bumpy road and I have like poor neck control. He stood up behind me and literally held my head in place so that it wouldn't get bumped around. So like
Yeah.
when you travel with a tour company, that's really great. Like it makes it so much of a better experience. And then she is able to like enjoy the trip more because she's not having to do all of that. And I'm able to enjoy the trip. Like it really makes both of our lives so much easier.
No, thank you for that. And you provided a sort of lovely transition to another question that we talked about on Tuesday night, was this notion of, Sandy, you're obviously Cory's mom, but you're doing all of the caretaking, and sort of how do you keep your sanity and enjoy the time, and, you know, just a lot of the stresses that come along with stresses in general for any family with, I mean, I feel like Disneyland or Disney World's my favorite place to be because I just love sitting around watching families fight. It's just, like, I feel like everybody just gets so stressed, whether you're dealing with accessibility needs or not. Like, it's stressful to travel with families. And so how do you kind of take care of yourself through all of this and you know, still be able to enjoy?
I
Get
just
sleep.
I know. I'm thinking, am I not
I know, I was thinking like, what sanity?
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I just think, I mean, I just try to think, you know, we're here with, let's just, I mean, I've always been like, let's cherish every moment. I try to make the most of every moment. And while we're there, I'm just trying to get Cory up, get him dressed, get him ready. Of course, all that's stressful in the mornings. The getting out the door is my most stressful part of the day.
Yeah.
And then once we're out there, I love being outside. I don't want to be cooped up in the hotel. So I'm just trying to take it all in. I don't eat healthy. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I do. I'm an awful eater. I mean, if it's got sugar,
she's the person that orders chicken tenders
I'm
every
gonna
week.
order on the kid menu, and he's eating some kind of crazy escargot or something like that. I'm chicken fingers. But I don't know. I think just from having a mindset of, you know, just take it all in, appreciate it, you know, just be in that moment. Don't try to worry about what's coming next. And whatever happens, I always say, you know, it's not a problem. It's just an issue we got to get resolved. You know, we don't want to think of it as a problem. If something's broke, if something's tore up, let's just figure out how we're going to get it fixed. So
yeah, and we also, like, when we were first starting in this blogging journey, it was really just the two of us going everywhere on our own, like together, but just us. But then after like a few years, we were like, it would really be nice if we had a third person with us, and just like an extra pair of hands to help out, or like to give her less stress, me less stress. And so about 6 years ago, we decided that we're not going to travel internationally anymore unless we take a third person. And so we found a friend that was willing to go with us, and her name's Kayla, and we have taken her around the world with us over the past 6 years.
She's done what,
20, I think we're up to like 23 or 24 countries with her.
It's just having that extra set of hands. Even if, I mean,
Yeah.
she doesn't get him dressed, she doesn't give him a shower, any of that. I mean, I just, you know, I'm still doing all that. I just want someone there. It helps to ease my mind knowing I have a runner, is what I call her.
Yeah.
You're my runner. I want to know if I got hurt, if I hurt my back, if he got hurt, someone can go get help, you know, besides just me depending on me to take care of two people.
Yeah, like when we were in Chile, a few years ago, we did a cruise to Antarctica, and after the cruise, we were planning to spend like 5 days in Santiago, Chile, and my mom got like the sickest I've ever seen her. And so during the few days that she was recovering, me and Kayla were able to, like, Kayla was able to hang out with me, like get me lunch, like make sure we were eating. Like we went to the grocery store and got peanut butter. We went to the pharmacy and got her prescription filled. Like
Yeah.
we were able to do those things because we had that extra person. But if it had only been my mom and I, like we would have been screwed and like had to fly someone in. We actually did fly someone in one time. So like 8 years ago, before we started traveling with Kayla, I fell out of my shower chair and busted my head open and had a brain bleed and
That
was
was in America,
hospitalized. It was in
New
and
Mexico.
yeah, New Mexico. And so it was only the two of us. And we really needed someone there. And so we had to fly in my friend 𝗕𝗲 to come to New Mexico to help us out and help me like recover and get back, you know, to Atlanta. But after that we were like, okay, like it's time to
Have some
get
help.
some help.
Yeah.
So we have
Yeah.
not traveled internationally without Kayla anymore.
I am learning it's okay to ask for help.
Yes.
Very much so, absolutely. Cory, I know that you had mentioned on our call, we talked a little bit about travel insurance and some of your thoughts on that. And that kind of goes
yeah.
along with this conversation. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we do not travel anywhere, even outside of our house, without travel insurance. Like we have an annual plan from Allianz Travel Insurance, and with Allianz, they do cover pre-existing medical conditions. So a lot of travel insurance companies do not cover pre-existing medical conditions. But with Allianz, like that's really why I have them, because like even though I have SMA, muscular dystrophy, I'm still covered no matter what. And so when I fell like in New Mexico and busted my head open, they and fractured my skull and everything, the bill was like $60,000, and they covered every single penny of it through that travel insurance. So without travel insurance, I mean, it would have been awful. But
Yeah, and it's really pretty easy. I just had to fill out a few forms, send them the bills. I mean,
Yep.
it's wonderful.
And we have an annual plan, and for both of us, for the annual plan with Allianz, I think it's like $800 for two people. So like $400 per person. So it's like not that expensive if you're going to be taking a few trips a year. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, and we were going to board a cruise. One year we went to Orlando and stayed a few days, and then we're going to board a cruise. And Cory was kind of getting a little chugged up, a little congested before the cruise. And I was debating, well, should I take him to the doctor? What should I do? And then we were like, oh, wait, we've got this travel insurance. We're just nearby in the next state in Florida. We live in Georgia, but we used it there just to go to a walk-in clinic. He was able to get his meds paid for, the walk-in clinic paid for, and we got on the cruise ship with the medication that he needed. And I mean, it was great. Something small like that.
And with Allianz, you can use that travel insurance as long as you're at least 100 miles from your home. So I mean, it's really not even that far. Like even if we went to Atlanta, like I could use the travel insurance. Like I mean, it really is a life changer.
That's interesting. I had no idea about that. I did put the link in, not that we're affiliated with Allianz, but these are all really good things to know. And Sarah mentioned, you know, Medicaid's not going to cover you outside of the US. I don't even know about private health insurance policies. I imagine that would be very difficult to one more thing to deal with. Like who needs that? If you have travel insurance, you know, you can feel a little bit less stressed about all of this. So that's really great. Cory, can you talk a little bit about cruises? You mentioned cruises a little bit. Just any thoughts you have on better? I know you've done quite a bit of cruising. There's lots of talk. I always see people talking about how accessible cruises are. So any thoughts about cruise ships and traveling with a disability or better cruise lines than others? Can you hear me? I don't know if Cory paused.
It looks like Cory paused.
Maybe he froze. Oh
no.
He popped out. I'm sure he'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll give him a second to come back. Anybody else have just thoughts in general with your own travel while we wait for Cory on things that you do that make things easier? Hi, Sarah. Feel free to tell us what you do. Good to see you.
Well, you were asking about cruises, and I know I haven't taken a cruise in many years, over 10 years, but one of the things we found with cruises is that the lines for the elevators was extremely long. So I hope
really?
things, I hope things have improved. The other thing was that they wanted you to put your suitcase out the night before and they take them in the middle of the night, like at 3 or 4 in the morning or something, which of course you can't do with a ventilator or other pieces of equipment that you need, like you need your cough assist or your suction machine or whatever. And so we had a little tricky time with them telling them we needed to keep our suitcases for medical equipment. But I really hope things have changed a lot over and one other thing had tried to book certain cruises that didn't have any accessible rooms at all. So does anyone else have any experience with cruising that I hope is better? And I'm hoping Cory's knows a lot more when he bumps back on.
Yeah, it looks like he's coming back now, so that's good. And I know he's had it sounds like a lot of really good experiences with cruises. So there they are.
Okay,
Yay.
Excursions.
No worries. It's the beauty of Zoom.
I don't even know what my computer just completely went off.
Yeah,
Like,
it
I don't
started.
even know why.
No worries.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so Cory, while you were gone, we were talking, one of Sarah on the call said she hasn't cruised for about 10 years, but she knows in the past, like the lines to the elevators were really long and they used to make them put their luggage out in the hall to load the night before, which we can't do. So any thoughts you have on just how accessible cruises are would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I love cruising and think it's like the most accessible way to travel, in my opinion, because when you're on the cruise, you don't have to worry about transportation to like just go to dinner or to go see a show or to go to the casino or whatever it may be. Like there's so much there on the ship that you can enjoy, and I really love cruising for that reason. Finding accessible shore excursions can be a different story. So it can be difficult in some places, but there are companies that are devoted to accessible shore excursions. So one of them is called Accessible Caribbean Vacations, and they have accessible shore excursions all over the Caribbean. In Europe, for European cruises, there's another company called Sage Travel, and Sage Travel has shore excursions all over Europe that are accessible. So we've used them multiple times in different destinations, and they've been really great to work with. But otherwise, I would say like the newer the ship is, the more accessible it's going to be. So I love like the newer ships from Virgin Voyages, from Disney. The newer like Royal Caribbean ships are supposedly super accessible. I haven't been on them yet, but I've heard nothing but good things. But I think the newer the ship is, the better accessibility you're going to find.
That's great. Thank you. I was just putting some of these links in here that you mentioned. So that's great. I know one of the earlier questions that I guess we never went back and answered, and I'm thinking about cruise ships as well. As far as like charging and outlets, and have you had any issues with that with like some of the amps that power pulls, and like also on cruise ships, I think everything is what we use in the United States from a charging
for all
standpoint.
the cruises that we've done, they're all at 110 voltage, so same as the US. But the first time that we ever went to Europe, actually, we went to Munich, Germany, and we had an adapter, a converter, like everything we thought we needed to charge my wheelchair overnight. And when we plugged it in, the sparks were flying and the charger blew up. And the power actually went out.
Smoke was coming out of the charger immediately.
Yeah, like we blew it up. The power in the hotel went out for like 10 minutes. Like
it went black. The whole
it was wild. And
oh my gosh.
So immediately after that, we had to hop online on Google and find a repair shop and purchase a new wheelchair charger like the next day. And luckily we were able to find one by some miracle. But I now have two separate chargers. So I have a 110 volt charger that I use at home or anywhere in the US. And then I also have a 220 volt charger where if we're traveling internationally where they have 220 voltage, I just take that charger instead and use it internationally. And you can find that by contacting like your local wheelchair repair company. And you could tell them like you want to buy a 220 volt charger and they should be able to get it to you and get one shipped in. But a lot of chargers now are dual voltage. So for wheelchairs. So if you do have a dual voltage charger, then you're set like in the US or internationally. But for the charger that I have, it's unfortunately not dual voltage. So we do have a 220-volt charger and the 110.
Yeah, and I never want to trust the converter again, not with the
No,
wheelchair.
not with something as important as a wheelchair charger.
And I know, I guess Gabby, well, and Josh is probably not, I don't know that Josh is on, but we've talked a lot with the 𝗟𝗂𝗋𝗋𝗋s who have traveled internationally. And Kate, are you able to speak to what they use for the converter? A little bit without, because
well,
it's like the ventilators and the heaters and it's pulling so much.
yeah, and if Ali and Gabby are there, they probably know better, but there's a converter that basically can be used to convert the voltage from 220 to 110 or vice versa. But I don't know more than that really. But only that it would be essential for things like the heaters, anything that's life safety equipment. It's not adequate to just plug it into an adapter, obviously. Like you need to convert the voltage.
Yeah.
Thanks. Cindy's asking if you have a favorite cruise ship.
Yeah, definitely Virgin Voyages. I love them, and I think it's the most accessible cruise line in the world. It's truly incredible at what Virgin has done and how much they've thought about accessibility. Even on their private island, like at their private beach club, they have amphibious beach wheelchairs, they have Moby mats, they have pool lifts, they have boardwalks, like where you can walk around the beach area. So every single part of their private beach club is completely wheelchair accessible, which is unheard of elsewhere with other cruise lines. And there are even companion care restrooms throughout the cruise ship. So like you're never more than like 50 feet away from a companion restroom, which is unheard of as well. So I love Virgin Voyages, but they are 18 and up only. So it's adults only with Virgin Voyages. So if you do have a kid, I really, really love Disney. Disney Cruise Line, they're newer ships. The older ships are okay, but not the greatest. But the newer Disney Cruise Line ships are really fantastic. Like the Disney Wish, the Disney Fantasy, and then the Disney Treasure just came out a few months ago, and I've not been on the Treasure yet, but I've heard really great things about accessibility with it. And Disney's private islands are also really accessible.
That's good to know. And plug for you, Cory. He's been starting a lot of like travel cruise group accessibility trips. And I was joking to him the other night because he had posted one and I was like, oh, you're doing it like 2 weeks before Greta turns 18, so she can't go. But then he's doing another one. So there's for those of us that are having our kids turn into adults soon, it's an option, which is a whole nother scary thought in itself, but it's the reality. So we are nearing that world.
Yeah, we have one going in March of 2026 and then another one in May of 2026. So if anyone's interested, it is a Virgin Voyages group cruise. So if you are interested in going, just like send me a message or an email and I can give you all of the information.
Thank you so much, Cory. And we will, this meeting, we have about 12 minutes left, so I want to be sensitive to time, 13 really. This has been recorded and we will put this up and we'll say, we'll save the chat. Jen, you'll save the chat, right? I've tried to drop some things in there that we've talked about. So you can always reach out to me individually too if you're like, what was that we talked about? So I'm going to try to pull all of this together for my own use as well, because this is all really very, very helpful information. I do want to make sure we just spend a little bit of time talking about Philadelphia because our SciFam conference is there this summer. We've been to Philly a couple times, but not extensively. So, and I know it's been a little bit of time since you've been there, Cory. But can you talk with us at all about your experiences in Philadelphia as someone who needs, accessibility to enjoy travel?
Yeah, we went to Philadelphia, I guess that was like 8 years ago. So it's been a while, but we really enjoyed it and had a great time. I mean, we went to like Independence Hall. We saw the Liberty Bell, of course, like the necessities. Reading Terminal Market was one of my favorite places to visit. I'm a bit of a foodie, so we were able to try like some good food at Reading Terminal Market, and it was a lot of fun. And then Eastern State Penitentiary also did have an accessible tour option. So I believe we had to book it like in advance and let them know that we needed the accessible tour option, but we were able to tour the Eastern State Penitentiary. And then to get around Philadelphia, we actually used, it's called the Philadelphia Flash. It's like, and Flash is spelled with a PH, so PHLASH, and it's like strictly for tourists. But it's a bus system, and every Flash bus is wheelchair accessible with a fold-out ramp, and it goes to all of the popular tourist attractions. So it's really, really easy to get around. They operate every 15 minutes at every stop. So you're never like waiting a long time for a bus, and they are all accessible, which is amazing. So really, really love the Flash system.
Yeah, we always say, we're in New York City, and we always say people get very nervous about the buses. I was like, the buses are so easy. It's just a grid, and they're all accessible, and it's such a great way to get around. So I just put that link in too. I also did a link that Cory did. Cory does on his blog and his website. He blogs a lot about where he goes and different things to think about. I know we've used it when we've traveled certain places, his ideas and recommendations. So I put the one that he had written on Philly in there as well. So check that out. But certainly he has great resources up there if you're thinking about traveling places. And then Sarah had said you can get a national parks access pass with the disability for national parks in Philly as well. So that's good to know. I want to go back up. Any other questions or things about Philly that you can think of, Cory, or any other questions that folks have?
I mean, it's been like so long since we went. Like I kind of covered the highlights, but yeah, we really enjoyed it. I mean, can you think of anything else that you really loved about
They
Philly?
had Uber as well.
Yeah,
didn't
they do.
Accessible Uber.
Yeah, they did have accessible like 𝗿𝗶𝗰𝗵. So if you didn't want to like use that bus system, or you needed transportation from the airport,
Yeah.
I would like contact or either just use like 𝗿𝗶𝗰𝗵 or Lyft, or there are a few accessible taxi companies in Philadelphia as well, I know. So it's all on my blog. If you just search Philadelphia, I have a couple articles.
Awesome.
And one article completely about transportation also. I don't think I sent you the link for it, Lynn, though. So, but I did write an entire blog post about accessible transportation in Philadelphia.
Oh, perfect. And Sarah, I know you've spent a lot of time researching this for the conference, so I saw you raise your hand, so feel free.
So thank you for all your tips and on travel. If you've got the travel bug and you want to see us all, I hope you can join us at the 𝗖𝗋 conference in Philadelphia. And I just wanted to say that we have put together an entire Philadelphia visitors guide. Volunteer put together so many sections on places to eat and where to go, and local hospitals and transportation. And there's like probably answers to most questions there between Cory's blog and our travel guide. So I really would love to see I really want everyone to come to 𝗖𝗋, so I hope to see you there.
Absolutely, me too. Any tips? We haven't talked. We have very few minutes left, but any tips for traveling by car for those that don't often travel by plane or cruise?
I mean, whenever we are like doing a road trip, if I need to use the restroom, we usually can always depend on Starbucks for having the most accessible bathrooms, because they always have companion care, like all gender restrooms, which is great for us. So we always usually stop at a Starbucks to use the restroom, just
Well,
because.
it's a good excuse for you too.
Right. I'm also a bit of an addict, so it's also good for that reason. But they do really have the best restrooms, like much better than a gas station or somewhere like that.
I know when Greta was younger, we would sort of on our trips plot out, where some of the nearby hospitals were, just in case of an emergency situation.
Yeah.
We'd also think about that even when we were traveling by car, where we were staying for the night, like trying to stay in bigger cities, things like that. Do you have AAA? Do you guys have AAA?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't want to get stuck on the side of the road without some kind of service, really, because traveling, you never know what's going to happen. Our van, as you all probably know, I mean, wheelchair accessible vehicles sit so low to the ground anyway, it's hard to even get a jack underneath them to change a tire. So having that extra service with AAA or whoever you may use, it's much easier to let them come do it.
I've used AAA many times, as much as twice in this past week, because I hit a crater with my accessible van, and $1,500 later, it's now fixed, which just makes me sick. I'm going to pick it up today. But one of the things with AAA is you can get the expanded service that will tow up to 100 miles. And I have always paid for that because I always try to tow it if I can to like a ability specialist. But I have also mechanics that I've used in different places that I trust. So I'd rather not have to have it just go to some rando, in the next town that's gonna try to, I lack trust of people. So
yeah, we totally understand that.
So good question, Lucinda. Yeah, I think it is very well worth it. But they do have a limit, like how many times you can get towed in a year. I forget what it is, 3 or 4. So check into that, because I have hit my limit before in the past, which isn't always fun. 3, Michelle knows. Yeah, it's not good. Not good. I can tell you which plan I have. I don't know offhand, Lucinda, but I can send that to you. It's whatever tows up to 100 miles. That's the plan I have. And we have a family plan. Kate has a card, I have a card. I do want, Alice had asked a question earlier that I just want to make sure I kind of skipped because we weren't talking about it right at the moment, but do you have, where is it? Do you have any, is Alice still on? Yes. Do you have any recommendations? It was for Japan.
Nice.
What was it? Maybe travel service companies?
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not finding it quick.
Oh,
I
it
want
was
to see it.
it was asking, are there any tour groups that you recommend in Japan?
Yeah,
Right.
we went to Japan this past October. We used the company Inside Japan Tours, and they planned our entire trip. So they found really great accessible hotels. They provided transportation. They arranged tours and excursions for us all over Japan. And they covered the whole country. So no matter what parts of Japan you're wanting to visit, they can definitely help you out with that. And then a really good website that I used when kind of planning the trip and figuring out what exactly we wanted to do in Japan was the website Accessible Japan by Josh Grisdell. He is a wheelchair user from America, but he moved to Japan and now lives in Japan. And he runs a phenomenal website all about accessibility in Japan. And he is the one that actually told me about Inside Japan Tours.
That's really
Thank you.
great.
Yeah, they were great.
Thank you. We're getting down to our last few minutes. Any other questions that folks might want to throw in at the end here for Cory and Sandy? I know a lot of us on this call have done some traveling on our own, and I think, the more that you do it, the more comfortable you become with it, and the more tips and tricks and strategies you find that work for yourself. But I know that, Cory, you have such a wealth of information. And like I said, I've looked at it many times. I know many people on this call have looked at it, and very excited to have you here. Cindy asked one last question. Besides Disney and Virgin Voyages, are there any other cruise lines with private islands?
I know that Royal Caribbean and Carnival, they do have private islands, but I don't think I've ever been to them actually. So I'm not sure about accessibility on theirs. The only private islands that I've been to are Virgin and Disney.
Perfect. Good to know. Oh, Gabby says Royal Caribbean private island is not good. So,
Okay.
so we know that. Don't use them. And I do think, you know, as folks are, I know we have a lot of conversations around travel, even just on some of our NM sites and things, and conversations on social media. You know, this is always great information to share as people have it and different experiences. Always so helpful and welcome. And you know, there's so much out there to see. Sharon, did you, hi Sharon, I see you just came on. Did you have anything to add about your own travel or sorry, you're muted. And I don't know if Gabby was going to say something. Sorry.
Sorry. The only thing that I would add, and I apologize, I'm late, is that, you know, we always book ahead that we need wheelchair assistance, whether we're pushing our son or not. Having that extra body person with us to do so has always been helpful. And that was going to be what I was going to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I want to be sensitive to time, and we're committed to 90 minutes. And again, Cory and Sandy, from our NM community and the greater congenital myopathy communities, really just so very, very thankful to have you with us today and get to hear from you directly. This was really, really great information. Michelle and I are very excited because we are actually, 𝗟𝗲𝗿𝗂𝗁𝗍, we are actually going on the first Moms Caregivers Retreat that Sandy is doing in Panama City, Florida. So we'll actually get to see some of the great things that they've talked about from an accessibility standpoint, although we won't be thinking about that because it's just going to be all the moms enjoying ourselves.
That's right. We're going to be relaxing, getting massages, bonfire on the beach.
Yes. So we're very excited to get to know Sandy a little bit more too in a few weeks. So we'll be posting about that. You know that.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you both for joining and for joining in on that fun. I'm looking so forward to just getting to know everybody and relaxing at the beach with everyone.
Me too. Me too. But thank you all so very much for joining us today on this call. Special thanks again to Cory and Sandy. We're so thankful to have some time with you and
thank you.
You know, you can read about all these lovely things, but to get to see you on screen in person and hear about it is just such a treat for me, and I know the rest of our community. So thank you so very much, and thanks Jen and to AFBS for sponsoring this today. So
yeah, thank you all so much for having us. We really appreciate it. It's been fun.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks.